Okay, first question of the day. This is from Epic Gaming Nerd, who asks, what do you think about Fallout's legacy? Like, do you think it might have been killed now after Fallout 76, or do you look forward to 5? I remember staying up for that E3 that announced 76, and then it released and it was such a mess. And now 5 is like 10 years out. So what are your thoughts? For me, and this might be an unpopular opinion because a lot of people have a lot of bad will, specifically after Fallout 76. I don't think that has done enough to tarnish the reputation of Fallout as a brand. I'm looking big picture. Like, yes, the hardcore gaming crowd, a lot of them still have issues with Bethesda, and a lot of them still have issues with Fallout 76. It was very much a huge topic of conversation in the online gaming world for a long time. But the like, whether we like it or not, the Fallout brand, just like the Elder Scrolls brand, is like this juggernaut, right? It is this monolith sales giant where I know people out there, total casual fans of gaming, who still absolutely go nuts for Fallout games, for Elder Scrolls games. Like, that brand exists beyond us. So I don't think Fallout 76 did enough damage to tamper too much excitement for Fallout 5. I'd say, if anything, really maybe more than anything, Fallout 4, with it being good, I liked it, but, you know, a lot of people looking years later thought it was just kind of like, okay, it was pretty simple. So I think, if anything, the bigger concern is, like, it's probably, Fallout 5 is probably not going to be a disaster like Fallout 76, but is it going to continue like how Fallout 4 felt? That being said, like, everybody has very complex, complicated feelings about the whole Bethesda thing. Some people want Todd Howard to burn at a stake, and some people still worship him and the team. I put the work in, though. I'm going to pat myself on the back for a second, though. But going back into Fallout 76 years later, they did put their money where their mouth was and updated it and made it a much stronger game. And it found a community. There are some people out there that really love Fallout 76. I wouldn't put myself as one of those people. I still thought when it released, it was like, ugh, you really asked for money for a lot of this. But jumping back in a couple of years later, I saw the value and I saw why some people liked it. So I just kind of wanted to get that out there. In terms of a Fallout 5, I can't even imagine what it would be like, but all I can say now after playing Starfield is that I hope Bethesda starts really pushing and changing up their games, obviously changing up their game engine or tool set to make games. Of course, there's so much of a conversation about that, but like, I just want Fallout 5 to be something completely different from gameplay, structure, tone, atmosphere. It'd actually be kind of funny to see them really go back to the roots of Fallout before Bethesda got their hands on it. I would love to see them embrace kind of its old school PC roots. Would it do that? I don't know. Is Bethesda interested in that? I don't know, but let's move on. The guy in there asks, how do I ask Jake questions and get them read? Well, I say it at the start of usually every video. Put your questions for my next Q&A in the comments section of this video. So when I go to record my next Q&A a couple weeks from now, I'm doing them a little more frequently now, but I will go back to this video and look in the comments section and yeah, take from there. I also take from YouTube memberships and Patreon people who submit me questions as well. So yeah, just shoot them in the comment section. Anyway, spiel over. @yamusic asks, which Resident Evil game do you think Capcom will remake next? And do you think they should keep the co-op option if they remake Resident Evil 5? I'll start with that. If they remake Resident Evil 5, absolutely keep the co-op stuff. I think, and I've said this in places like, I think Resident Evil 4 Remake felt like it was laying the foundation technically for co-op for a Resident Evil 5 remake. The way like Louise worked, the way, you know, your AI partner would work in Resident Evil 4 Remake, like you'd have to look closely to see it because obviously you're not commanding them around, but it kind of gave off that vibe. It felt almost like there was like a Sheva with ya. I think it would be really interesting for them to remake 5, especially with like Wesker somewhat being back in the picture. Like, I say that without really spoiling anything for 4 for those people who didn't play it. But for the other part of the question, though, like, which Resident Evil game do you think Capcom will remake next? I actually kind of have an inkling. It's not confirmed. Like, I'm not a scooper. Don't run with this. It was kind of like through the grapevine. I kind of have a rough idea of which one the next one might be. But I'll say that aside, for me personally, the one I would like to be remade is Code Veronica. I think there's a lot of merit to that one. There's a lot of cool action. There's a lot of great cinematic, exciting moments, a lot of great horror references, some cool enemy creature designs. there is a lot there. So there's that. And then like my brain trails off and just thinks about Resident Evil 9. I can't help myself. I really hope that after this whole Ethan Winters thing is seemingly wrapped up, they go back, or not back, but the timeline kind of circles back around to what the franchise really is. I'm here for the characters, the umbrella, the lore, the stuff like that. And I would love to see them give Jill another shot. Resident Evil 9 starring Jill. That's what I would like to see. That's all I'm going to say. Let's move on. Noobs Brother _ says, have you been much of an achievement hunter? I almost never pay attention to them, but when I see any hidden achievements, I try to go for them when I can. Yeah, this is going to be, I haven't really like revealed this in a while. I am not a trophy hunter. I am not an achievement hunter. Are we going to revoke my gamer card? I don't know. So I've always been very focused on, and I've said this in a lot of videos, the next thing. I want to finish a game and get to the next thing. What else we got? What's next? Where's the innovation? Where's the sequel? Like I want to see that stuff. Obviously, it's easier to be a trophy hunter or a completionist when games weren't releasing constantly, or you had a limited income, so you have one game that lasts you 6 months. That's a different story. There were times in my life when I did do that. The early days of Xbox 360, I was pretty concerned with achievements and my gamer score. But as time went on, I evolved past that. Specifically, I blame it mostly to like number one, work. I play a lot of games for work and I have to move on very quickly. But number two, I play on a lot of platforms, so it's really hard to drill down and be like, I just want trophies, I just want achievements, I just want Steam achievements, because I bounce around. I'll play a game on Xbox, then I'll play a game on Steam. You know, I have no loyalty, so to speak. So it makes it a little harder to really take my trophy count or my achievement count seriously. It was great back in the day, but as time has gone on and I've been spread out more, it's pretty pathetic. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if that makes me like not a gamer or something. Uh-oh. But yeah, let me know what you think. Now, next up, we have Ethan Wald 2616, who says, do you have a favorite movie or series that you would like to see represented in a video game format? I mean, The Mummy already has video games. I'd love that energy to continue in other video games, but for me, and I haven't talked about it too much on this channel, I've answered some of this question before, but something different on my mind today, Speed. I would love to see Speed made into a compact, awesome, thrilling video game thing. I don't know how it would work, because if you don't know, the whole concept behind Speed is that Pop Quiz Hotshot, there's a bomb on the bus. If the bus drops under a certain amount of speed, the bomb will blow up. So this bus has to just keep going, hurtling through Los Angeles, and only one awesome cop, Jack, aka Keanu Reeves, is the one to save the day and also kiss Sandra Bullock, who was peak in that film. So because of that like structure, that whole like, oh, like time is limited, you know, like obviously you're worrying about gas for the bus, you're worried about, you know, not dropping the speed, you're worried about pedestrians, casualties, and just the patience of the man on the other end with the trigger for the bomb. There's something there, almost maybe like a Dead Rising structure, right? Where, you know, it's centered around a specific time limit and the whole game exists within that time limit. So maybe almost something like a Speed game where there is an end of the line. There is ultimately a final destination the bus will get to. It'll hit a dead end or something will happen. And you have to figure things out as you go. Maybe it's part action game. Maybe it's part Telltale game where you make decisions on the fly. Like I would love, like, you know, like picture Keanu Reeves like in the movie, like, you know, when he's like standing on the bus and he's looking ahead out the windshield and he's like thinking, right? Thinking of a plan. You know, you have Jeff Daniels on the other end and you're like figuring out like, what are we gonna do? Like it would be cool to have like a decision thing, like a Telltale style thing, and like, you know, choose your own adventure. But if there was action elements, that would be cool too. I don't know. Speed, in my opinion, is one of the perfect action movies. I find it well paced, endlessly rewatchable. So if they made a game that captured that feeling, I'd love to see it. I don't care if it's like a 4-hour game, but if it's designed to be played in multiple ways and endless, there's a real fun way to do something there. I don't know. Switching gears real quick, this video is sponsored by Factor. If you're new around here, if you're living under a rock, Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your doorstep. They've been feeding me and this channel for a while now, and it's been great because as of right now, my kitchen, I moved in, but my kitchen is being worked on, so I don't have like a stove, I barely have a kitchen. I'm eating food in the garage, and it's great for Factor because you fire them up in the microwave, 2 minutes, and you're good good to go, but they're real, hearty, actual meals. You're not just eating junk food. So you're saving time, money, and yourself there, and it's been working out great. I actually have one right here. What is on the menu today, you might ask? Chicken and mushroom tetrazzini. Very nice. Speaking of flavors, though, Factor is rocking fall flavors right now, like cranberry pecan chicken and apple Dijon pork chops. You can really kind of get in the spirit of the season. If you'll want to check it out, and it does help the show, all you got to do is click the link in the description down below, or go to factor75.com. And when you go there, use code ONJAKE50 for 50% off your first Factor box. That's a good deal. I'm hooking you up with some food. Again, that's factor75.com. Use code ONJAKE50, and big thanks to Factor for sponsoring these videos. Switz, who shout out to them for always asking some like good, insightful questions, says, I'm curious about how you curate the questions you answer. Are there certain types of questions you prefer answering? How do you prioritize answering things between what you want to talk about and what your audience is interested in hearing? Are there lines of questioning you prefer to avoid or want to not answer or not answer in a public setting? So honestly, I approach these questions a lot of times as like, so I'm bad at this. I'm not good at like other than like, you know, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, whatever review, right? Or Spider-Man 2 review. I'm not always as good at coming up with other types of video concepts, approaches. So the Q&A, I look at the questions as like video ideas essentially, and I always prioritize fun. I always look for an excuse to kind of like talk about an old game or just cover a topic that I wouldn't normally, but usually I prioritize fun. I'm also like the type of content I make, the stuff I talk about, I don't usually like get too excited about drilling deep into issues. You know, there's a lot of stuff that is worth being discussed out there. There are people equipped to do it, but I'm kind of just here more to hang out and just kind of, you know, I don't know. But in terms of balancing like questions the audience wants to hear, and that's tricky because, you know, some people just don't want to hear me talk about like an old PS2 game like Kinetica, like I talked about last week, or me harp on about Max Payne or Freedom Fighters again. But I just go for it. Or, you know, sometimes it's like a question where I talk about the DeLorean, my favorite car ever. And like, no one cares. It's like a crusty old car from the 80s. And if it wasn't for that Back to the Future movie, nobody would care about the car. But I care, damn it. So here I am rambling. But jumping over from Switz's question about questions like I avoid answering or like stuff like that. This is from Kingchroniker, who says, do you think it's tasteful for a video game to be based on the events of 9/11? I'm going to read the whole question because it's really well framed. Playing Modern Warfare 2019, I found it moving and frankly harrowing being pulled from that rubble after the missile strike on the village you're in. It's a feeling I don't get from movies or TV shows. Video games feel unique in what emotions and sensations you experience vicariously through the character you're playing as. As a newer medium, I feel like that holds it back from having a AAA title in which you play a fireman in Manhattan or an office worker on the 110th floor, as a lot of people's perceptions of video games are of Mario jumping on Goombas. Is there anything off limits? Is there something a movie can do that a game shouldn't? I don't really know. Long story short, TLDR, whatever, for me, it's a matter of like who does it and how they do it, how they handle it, how they approach it. I think everything is a case-by-case basis. And with 9/11 specifically, I mean, my perspective as somebody who, you know, I wasn't affected by 9/11, but I live in the greater New York area, and where I lived, you know, a majority of the adults went to work every day in this city, and I went to school with kids that lost fathers that were like firemen. It's kind of weird to think about because any other historic event that I'd love to see like shown in a game, like, you know, you're a little less attached from it. I also come at it like the 9/11 movie with Nicolas Cage. I thought it was bad. I didn't think that was good. I don't think that really, you know, ugh. But what I do like and what I have found interesting over the years is how 9/11 has influenced media and essentially portrayals of big crisis in cities. We've seen it in so many movies and so many things, from like found footage movies to just regular old movies to even like like even Batman v Superman, like the big action scene in the beginning that was the fallout from Man of Steel, like that has echoes of like a 9/11 feel. There's so many ways the horror of 9/11 influenced how storytellers portray those types of horrific events. So if anything, I don't necessarily like, I'm not begging for like a 9/11 game, but I would love to see that type of influence. Like I said, like how 9/11 influenced how movies portray some horrific horrific events. I'd like to see that reflected a little bit more in games. There are movies sometimes where you'll watch it and you'll go, ooh, that's 9/11-y. And in games, you don't really usually get that feeling too often. So I'd be curious to see how that will be pursued. Because ultimately, like, if I lost you, the big thing coming around, and it's the same with the person who asked questions, is that, like, there are genuine stories to be told. There are things to be learned from this, and respect can be paid through learning about these events, seeing different angles, feeling the things conveyed possibly that some people felt. I don't know. But again, it's tricky. It's who does it, how they do it. KJ8203 says, hey, Jake, now that quite some time has passed since God of War Ragnarok, what would you want to see from the third game if they ended up making one? Kratos finally dying, or branching off and focusing on Atreus' story? I will maybe preface, spoiler warning, it's been like a year for God of War Ragnarok. I'm not going to go into specific story details, but for the next game, I would like to see them follow through on Atreus. And, you know, we had Atreus playable, and I kind of like those sequences, as simple as some of them were, but it felt like a good stepping stone to eventually making him a badass. If there's a way to make him like a cool adult and make him feel like son of God of War, there is something there that could be pretty awesome. I also, on the other hand, would like to see Kratos finally meet his end. He's a guy who has kind of almost met his end a couple of times. But it's bad. It's like do I want a happy ending for Kratos? I don't know. I actually almost I'm more interested in seeing, and you know, it might be contrived, it might be overdone in other things, but like I would really like to see, as much as these new games want to move past it, I would like to see some of his past actions really come back to haunt him. The games have flirted with it, but I would like to see them do it in a compelling way in the third game, where maybe it catches up to him, or he overcomes it or atones for it and then dies. I don't envy the people taking this on, because that's hard, and I still always struggle with killing off monolithic, incredible characters that we've spent so much time with. I've been on record, and a lot of people get mad at me, but like I wasn't really that satisfied with how Logan died. Not enough time to explain that here, so don't freak out. But yeah, I don't know. So follow through, actually like cash the checks that you wrote for Atreus growing up. Actually make him badass. Don't make him feel generic. Like, he has to have some real DNA of feeling like son of God of War. And kill Kratos' ass. How? I don't know, but yeah. Luke Oil 11 says, hey Jake, how do you feel that we may never get a Tony Hawk's 3 and 4 remake, considering how amazing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake was? I'm pretty gutted personally. So I have talked about this in a video. I know there's a lot of conversation now with Xbox finally finishing and owning Activision Blizzard. They could technically revive it, but I'm at this point now with 1 and 2 that I'm at peace. And if nothing ever comes of it anymore, whatever. The PC community has run with Tony Hawk in ways that I really love. The fact that at the very least now, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 is on Steam. Like, it's out there everywhere. But how I get this, how I feel, how I really come at it, I think is coming at this as someone who's been a Star Wars fan. I don't talk about the movies online anymore. I have literally retired from that because I don't like how the internet discourse is. But at the very least, like, being a young Star Wars fan, being introduced to the original movies and just seeing them and never knowing that there were other ones coming. It's like, these are the movies. Cool. Awesome. I am at peace with that. Then a couple of years later, I don't know, I'm like 9 years old or something like that. And I hear, holy shit, they're making more Star Wars movies. Awesome. Okay. And then you have the prequels. There are 3 movies and that's it. And for a long time, it felt like there was nothing else coming. Never, ever again. Those were very specific movies, the way they were made, the way they were produced, George Lucas and everything. Like, there was it felt like nothing was ever going to happen again. And then the sequel trilogy. So multiple times in my life, I've had to come to peace with things I really love not continuing. And I'm okay with it. And I'm okay with Tony Hawk if it never continues. Life finds a way. Tony Hawk is still kind of interested. So we'll probably see something eventually. But if this is it, if this was the ride, I'm good, man. This is just me coping. I really want 3 and 4 remake. Fuck. Kakush says, a continuation of the design question from the last video, which console specifically had your favorite home screen or UI? Personally, I love the simplicity of the PlayStation 2, and there's something so iconic about the Xbox 360 UI. Dude, the blade system was so of the time, but I love that about Xbox 360. I will also cheat and say, for me, Yeah, PS2 was pretty up there. I'd say for me, it's PS2 and GameCube for just kind of like simplistic cubes in a void. But specifically with PlayStation 2, I'm going to cheat and kind of jump over UI and talk about how beautifully the sound, the backing track, the sound effects worked with that UI, the feeling you got when you were in the PS2 like user interface. That shit really hit. It was like being on a relaxing beach, hearing the breeze, hearing the wind. I love that. But unfortunately, I got to wrap it up. I could talk forever, but that's why I'm going to start doing more Q&A videos. It might be 2 a month. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that, which I've noticed I say a lot. So keep your eyes peeled. I guess that's my new catchphrase. I don't know. But thank you if you've been here listening to me ramble for this long. Thank you for coming to these videos. I love talking about other topics and stuff like that, but I got to get back to reviewing some games. So leave questions in this comment section for the next video. And also, if you want to yell at me on Twitter and Instagram, threads, stuff like that, please do. Let me know what you think about what I talked about, like the user interfaces for consoles, Speed being a video game, Resident Evil 9, Code Veronica X. They should remake that next. Let's talk about any of this stuff. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you to YouTube and Patreon membership people for having my back. Clicking the like button helps me. I'm Jake Baldino. See you guys next time. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.